Welcome to this workshop, Cock of the North. We're going to walk through some of the embellishments in my version of the tune. You can get the sheet music in the workshop link below, as well as I got a couple lessons where I don't talk about the embellishments at all or very little. If you're brand new to the chanter and don't even know which holes to put which fingers, those would be the lessons to check out. It's a free workshop, so definitely check out that link, whether you're after the sheet music. This is a jig. Standard Cock of the North for pipe bands is a 6/8 march. There's a lot more heavy embellishments in the march. I myself, my first tune I ever learned was a jig, Paddy's Leather Breeches, and the jigs just have a little bit less embellishments, but this is a great workshop or great lesson if you're looking to get some embellishments into this Cock of the North jig that I've written, as well as I'm going to be talking a little bit about music theory. So if you're you've been on the chanter on the pipes for a while and you're struggling with theory, I'm going to chat a little bit about that in this lesson too. So hopefully you can see my screen. I can hide that, get that out of the way. And so I'm not going to, we'll walk through the lesson and we'll talk a little bit about the theory. Hey, but I'm not going to explain every note transition. So if you're getting lost, check out those free lessons. And without further ado, so we're on the E. So we got a couple different embellishments here, and they're, nothing too complicated, like no Dor Lewis or crazy stuff like that. But we're doing a G grace note, top finger of the top hand from the E to the C. And then our second embellishment you hear there is that C strike. So the middle two fingers of the bottom hand strike down, cover the holes, and pop right back up again. And just a note on that grace note, that top finger has to lift, and then you do the note transition to C, and then that top finger comes down. So it's first to lift and last to come down. Our third embellishment there is another G grace note. And so where are we in, let me get out a pencil here. So we are, this is where I'm talking. So that's the grace note we're on now. And it's another grace note. And we're just holding that C. We're still on the C note. We played a C there. We're still on the C, but we've separated it with a grace note. And then what's this little weird grace note down here? That's just telling us we're catching the low G. So we're on the C, we go down to B, we boom down to low G, but right away we hop up to that A. So that's what that little last grace note is. So all together, I'll play a little bit slower this first bar. So here we have, second bar, we have two G grace notes, so top finger of the top hand. So from the low A up to C, again, that top finger has to be first to lift, make the note transition, then it comes down. We just go from C to E, and then that top finger has to be first to lift, and then we lift up the other finger because we're coming to F, and that top finger lands, and we're on the F. So those first two lines, and if you're wondering, music theory-wise, if you're wondering, well, 6/8, what does that even mean? How do you know some notes are long, some notes are short? Let me get rid of a couple of these, and we'll start fresh. So 6/8. So a little music theory here. What does the 6 and what does the 8 stand for? So the 6 tells us in each bar, and the bars are separated by these vertical lines. So in each bar there is 6 beats. So 6 beats are happening in each bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the 8 tells us which note gets the beat. And we have different notes. You see in the note tree over here, we have our whole note. A whole note is in 4/4 time, a whole note would be 4 full beats. So it would take up a whole bar. A 4 note time, the quarter note gets the beat. So the quarter note is worth 1 beat in 4/4 time. And you need 2 quarter notes to make a half note. And a half note, you need 2 half notes to make a whole note. So we need, therefore, 4 quarter notes to make a whole note. And this 6/8, so the 8 is telling us 8th notes. These are 8th notes down here. We can tell they're 8th note because they have a little tail. We can tell the quarter note's a quarter note because it's filled in and it doesn't have that extra little tail. And we should tell the half note's a half note because it has the long tail like the quarter note, but it's not filled in, so it's a half note. And we can tell the whole note's a whole note because it's not filled in and it has no tail. So that's what all the tail business means. And do we have 16th notes in this tune? I don't think I put any 16th notes in. Good. So we're not even going to talk about those for now, unless I'm wrong and I spot one as we go through the tune. So that's kind of the note breakdown. And so this 8 tells us the 8th note gets the beat. So that tells us there's 6 beats in a bar. And if a bar is written as such, we have 6 8th notes, then each 8th note gets the beat. So what is an 8th note? Again, it has a tail. So this here is an 8th note because it has this little tail. And let me get rid of a few scribbles here. Oh yeah, I'm just scribbling all over the place, aren't I? Okay, get the scribbles out of there. That's an 8th note, it has a tail. This introductory note is an 8th note because it has that tail. And then these 3 notes tied together, this is a tail. It's a tail of each of those notes just tied together. So those are all 8th notes as well. So this gets 1 beat. But it's an introductory note, so it's kind of in its own thing. So our next downbeat is here. And so if we were to divide this in half, we have 3 beats here on this side, and this side gets 3 beats as well. And very commonly with jigs, we don't tap our foot to every single beat. That would be crazy. We'd be like, you would get cramps in your shin from trying to tap your foot every beat. So what we tend to do is we tend to just tap our foot on the first downbeat and the second downbeat. So our first grouping of 3 beats, that first downbeat, so in this case that quarter note, boom, gets a big tap, and then this C is going to get a big tap. Da dum dum da da dum 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 dum. So let's just find those downbeats. Dum 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 da dum dum da da dum 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 da dum dum da da dum 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 dum. Dum 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 da da dum dum dum. So that's when we break up those 3 beats and we just tap our foot to the first downbeat of each of those sets of 3. That's where we get the downbeat. That's where we start to feel the rhythm of the tune. Da dum dum da da dum 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 da da dum 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 da da dum dum da dum dum. Dum 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 da dum dum dum. And so that's where you'd be tapping your foot as you play, or that's where you would typically set the metronome as you play. Because we have each of those groupings of 3 equal. This tells us 100 beats per minute. You don't have to play that quick, especially if you're just learning. The beauty of this, it sounds quite nice, slow as well. But a dotted quarter note is going to be 3 beats. Because we know 1 quarter note is 2 8th notes. A dotted quarter note, when a note has a dot, it's a bit longer. It's going to actually have 3 8th notes to that dotted quarter note. So as we see here, we have a quarter note here plus 1 8th note. That's the same as 1 dotted quarter note, but we have it interrupted. We have 2 different notes there. We've interrupted, the same space is taken as a dotted quarter note as it is as 1 quarter note and 1 8th note. And then here on this side, we have 3 8th notes, which make up 3 beats. That's a little bit simpler. In this bar, we have we have the first grouping of 3, the second grouping of 3. It's a quarter note, eighth note, and that's the same as 3 eighth notes. That's the same as a dotted quarter note. So it gets 3 beats. And then we have the same on this side, and this bar is the same as that bar. And you kind of see how it's made up. So in each of those, I'll get rid of some scribbles here. In each of those groupings of 3 beats, so each bar has to be 6 beats. It can't be 8 beats. It can't be 4 beats. It has to be 6 beats of eighth notes making the beat, or going up our combination of notes, which is the equivalent of 3 eighth notes. So we see here, so this can be a really good exercise, is just dividing up those 3 beats and then circle the downbeat if you wish, or you just know the downbeat's always at the start of the bar and the start of the next 3 beats, which you've outlined here. So that can be a nice kind of theory exercise just to get used to that. So that's kind of some music theory here for you for this first part. And I don't want to leave you hanging. Let's finish off the first part talking about these embellishments. So how far did we get? Did we get through the first line? So I don't think we got quite to that first line. We did the first, yeah, we're on the third part here, embellishment wise. So let's talk about embellishments on this third part. So it's this, that's the beauty of bagpipe music. This third bar is the same as, I said part before, I meant bar. The third bar is the same as the first bar. So, and we're even coming off the E, just like we did on the introductory note. So boom, you've already got that. And then this next bar, bar 4. So yeah, bar 4 is a little bit different. We still have that G grace note onto the C. This time we're coming up from low A. And we still have that strike. And oh, okay, that's what we're doing, sorry. So we go up to C with the G grace note, drop down to B, and then we do our strike on B this time. And this is our downbeat. This is our next downbeat. This is our first downbeat. And if you say, well, why do I do that strike quite quickly? Why is that B so short before I do that strike? So that C is long because it's a quarter note. The quarter note is worth 2 eighth notes. So that C is twice as long as the B, which is an eighth note. So that's why that B comes across so short. And then these next 3 notes, again, they all have a tail. So they're all eighth notes. We have 3 eighth notes. So those 3 notes are the same length as that B. So that B, the strike, the B, the C, the B, all the same length. But that first C is long because it's the quarter note. So that's how that works out. And there is different ways to count it. Honestly, the counting, it takes practice. I do the counting sometimes, but sometimes it brings too much cerebral effort. It brings too much cognition into it. You're trying to figure out the math of it when you're like 1 E and that 2 E, like it's. I might put a lesson just on counting in a little bit simpler format, but to me, if you're just clapping along and humming the tune, I think that's a really good first step before you're worried about counting the 1 E, the 1, 2, like the 1 E and a 2 E and a 1, like if you can do that, if you have experience with other instruments, awesome. But just to keep it really simple, I would just try to clap those downbeats. Da 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 da. and just sing the tune in your head, or listen to it being played and look for those downbeats. So I think that would be the easiest. And hopefully this music tree gives you a bit of an idea of what all these, the differences between these notes with tails and no tails and all that jazz. So let's go through the second line, and then we'll have the full first part done in this lesson. And again, this is a free workshop. You can check out the links below for that free workshop, whether you just want the sheet music and get rolling, or if you want to keep working through some of these embellishments, or if you like not the embellishments and theory is driving you squirrely and you just want to get the basic notes and get the basic versions. I do have two lessons up there with just just for the absolute beginners. So let's work through this second line. And again, the nice thing about bagpipes, we have a lot of repeat. Our second line, first bar of the second line is going to be the same as our first bar of the first line and third bar of the first line. So that's that bar. Again, it's the same. Again, the bar 2 is the same as bar 2 in the first and second line. Bar 3, are we any different? Oh, yeah. So that when it starts out the same, we have the G grace note from the E. That we've done that before. We've done the C strike before. And then we're going to do a G grace note to the B. And so that's a little bit different. We haven't done this before. So we need to go from C to B with that grace note. So this is the grace note we're talking about, the G grace note. And you might be like, Alec, why is that a G grace note? How do you know that's a G grace note? How do you know that's a B? How do you know that's an E? Like that, we'll cover that in the next lesson when we go through part 2. I feel like we've stuffed too much down your brain already, maybe with the music theory. Counting, timing, downbeats, what's a whole note, what's a quarter note, all that. So we'll talk about how do you know if it's A, B, C, D, all that. We'll talk about that in the next lesson. So we're, in any case, we're going from C to B. We need to lift that G grace note finger first, do your note transition, then that finger comes down. And then it's just B, C, B. And then we've done this embellishment before, and this is our downbeat. And then this is another downbeat, new embellishment. So this embellishment we've done before, that's just that boom, low G up to low A. And then this embellishment is a burl, this crazy one here. So this is the craziest embellishment in the tune. It's the burl, so the pinky stays straight, slides down across the hole, and it bends and comes up across the hole. That's one way to play it. You might need a slippery pinky, get some forehead sweat, get some ear sweat behind your head, and that's that burl. Other way to play it is just to do that double tap. So the pinky stays straight and you do this quick double tap. You don't want to lift the pinky up high on the double tap between the taps, otherwise it just won't be quick enough. So it's this, covers the hole, barely comes up, covers the hole, comes up. So that would be the double tap method. If you're like, wow, I'm just happy if my bottom hand pinky finds the hole at all, I would suggest just the single tap and don't even worry about it, especially if that ring finger keeps moving off the hole and following. Just start out with that single tap. That's a good place to start. So that's the single tap method. So I'll just play, I always like to play it fast, but I'm going to try to play it nice and slow through the first part, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Again, it'll be in the workshop, free workshop, but we'll talk about how do we know what note is what note as we go up the scale, what grace note is what grace note as we go up the scale, and we will finish off this second part. So here's the first part for you. Happy piping!